It's the rock and roll and coffee show. Yeah, with Joe.
Hello.
What's up, Donnie?
What's going on, my man?
You good? Everything good?
I'm fine, bro.
You up in Chicago still?
Chicago area, right by just a little south, a south suburb.
Okay. You know, we ran into each other a long time ago, like really long time ago. Let me tell you this story. So, a bunch of friends of mine and myself went up to see you guys and Badlands. You guys toured with Badlands. Do you remember that?
Okay. Yeah, I remember touring with them.
Long time ago, right?
Yeah, that's a foggy time.
Well, I know. Wait till you hear the story. You might not want to hear the story, but
I love it. Let's hear it.
So we went to the show, but on our way to the show, we passed the hotel and we saw tour buses out there. So being young kids, we're like, fuck it, we're going to go back there after the show. So we went to the show, met you guys at the show, then went back to the hotel, and it was your guys' tour bus. So we ended up, this was in St. Petersburg, Florida. So we ended up hanging out all night, a bunch of my friends and I, and you guys, and we ran all over that hotel. We were in and out of your bus. You guys really didn't give a shit what was going on. It seemed like Vicky Fox, your drummer, and yourself, we piled into our cars, and you guys said that you knew where a party was, so we were going to go to a party. And we didn't even make it out of the parking lot before, I think it might have been your road manager or somebody stopped us and got you guys out of the car. That sound like something that would have happened?
That sounds like that's one of those times that they actually succeeded.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times they didn't.
Oh my goodness. It's they dropped their guard. It got to a point where they started taking mine and Derek's clothes after shows, so we couldn't go out anywhere. So we'd just be in boxers and towels and stuff.
That's funny you say that, because I was in the hotel room and I heard this voice coming from the balcony downstairs. And I looked out there and it was Derek with two girls. And he's like, "Hey, man, have you seen my shoes?" I'm like, "No, I haven't seen them." And he was like kind of pissed off. He didn't know where his shoes were.
Yeah, they would take our fucking threads and stuff. And then the boxers didn't stop us. We'd go out in the boxers. Those are like, consider those swimming trunks, you know what I mean? And go out in the fucking boxers. But then they started taking the boxers too. So me and Frigo, we'd be out in towels.
That's funny. But yeah, I'll always remember that. That was a good time, actually, that night. It was a pretty fun night.
I'm sure it would have been a lot more interesting had they not stopped us.
I know. Who knows what would have happened then? You
probably would have got fired the next day.
I still got I got a poster. You guys gave us a poster that night. You signed it. I still have it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So we were hanging out. We had a good time, huh?
Yeah, we did. It was a good time. That was cool. Was that like one of your first tours with Badlands?
It was I think that was like second or third tour. Was it the first record still, or was Strength out?
No, it was the first record, and it was just you guys and Badlands. That's it.
Yeah, we hit that one like right after Mr. Big, and we went out with them. We were out for, I would say, we didn't come home for like 11 months straight. The first run, we went right with Mr. Big over to Badlands, and then caught another one, and missed Christmases and birthdays, a lot of them, So we were busy for a while.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that was our second national act tour, I think.
All right. Yeah. Well, what we like to do on this show too is, of course, it's about you, but I like to get to the beginnings. When you guys formed, and actually when you started playing. When did you start playing guitar and singing?
Those are two different things. I started singing probably as soon as I could talk, and I liked singing for some reason. I didn't know any that, people would make comments that he's always singing, and I think it was even before I could talk. And then I heard my first Beatle record, and it was all over, man. It's I was doing concerts and stuff, 4 or 5 years old, putting on little concert stuff for my grandparents and shit. And just really, when I started singing, I seriously started singing by like 4 or 5. I mean, when
Really?
I hit the ground running, I seriously took that shit serious. And yeah, my grandparents, they told me by the time I was like 5 or 6, said I had like perfect pitch. And, it's if my voice wouldn't have been so high, it sounded just like those records. And because I was conscious, I'm fully aware of that too, that, I was really working hard at that at such a young age. And there was, the light bulb went on for me basically at that age, that there was no doubt in my mind, this is what I'm going to do. It's just something, the bug bit me, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I never took my eye off the prize, up until I finally did it. Now with guitar, we had an electric guitar sitting around. I spent most of my time at my grandparents because at home it was a pretty painful childhood, So when I was with my grandparents, my uncles played guitar, and so when they moved out of there, they left one of their old cheap, guitars. It was actually a Tiesco Del Rey, and I grabbed that fucker, and that's, that was my in the mirror guitar, you know what I mean? So I couldn't play,
Right,
but I had that guitar on it, so I, get my moves down and all that shit like that. And I didn't actually learn to play the thing till I think I was like 13 or 14, and these guys needed a guitar player in their band, and I wanted to be in a band so bad, I wouldn't tell anybody I sang. I was too self-conscious and insecure, so I never sang in front of anybody but my grandparents all the way up until about that age. And started drinking, then I started singing in front of my buddies and stuff. But I joined a band, and I didn't know how to play yet.
Oh, geez.
So the rehearsal was the next day, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I got some strings and this big note guitar book, Ernie Ball big note guitar book, and I learned Twist and Shout and Rocky Raccoon by the next day. Yeah, 2 songs, and so I was off. I mean, I played like shit, but I still play like shit. At least I was off and running. But let me tell you about that guitar. So that electric guitar, I had it all through my little childhood and stuff. It was in the mirror guitar. I never actually, by the time I learned to play the guitar, I had no idea where that one just sort of was in the wind. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I couldn't remember where it went or whatever the hell, but I wasn't around when I started learning how to play guitar. And so it was my uncle's. And so a year and a half ago, I was playing this club out in Arkansas, my buddy Kevin's club, and we went all the way out there, played a show, and he's got a bunch of stuff hanging on the walls. And I looked on the wall, and I'll be damned if there it was hanging there on the wall, and I'm like, dude, can I see that? He pulled it down. I looked at it. It still had the little thing where my initial carved in and all that shit. Yeah. It was the guitar.
No way.
It was that fucking guitar made it to Arkansas, and still in the same condition as when the last I had seen it, and it was my Uncle Ken's. And a month and a half later, he committed suicide.
Ah, sorry to hear that.
Yes, is that weird though?
Yeah.
How out of the, it's just that, and I'd sent him a picture of it when I got home with the guitar, and I sent him a picture. I said, I got your first old guitar. And he's like, I don't remember that. And I sent him a picture of it. He goes, I don't remember it. And then my nephew, his son, found a picture in his stuff of him playing it. He says, now do you remember it? And he's looking at it. And I guess he had pretty much lost his mind. He just went crazy after a couple of his children died and stuff like that. And he was just really sad and Bible belting and stuff like crazy. And then he just felt like there was no hope, but that's weird though. I get that fucking guitar back, right? And then that happens,
Yeah. Man.
I mean, both of those things the chances that I would find that guitar are slim to nothing. And then right then when that happens, so that's, things all work in a weird way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
There's more than meets the eye.
Sure. Hey everyone, it's Joe here from the Rock and Roll and Coffee Show. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast, but you weren't quite sure how? Well, now you can with Anchor.fm, and it's easy. Let me explain. With Anchor.fm, you can record your podcast right into your computer using your computer's microphone, or you can record it right on your phone using the Anchor.fm app. And not only that, after you're done recording your podcast, Anchor will distribute your podcast to all the major outlets, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we're not done there. Starting from your first episode, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership by using ads. Anchor.fm is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download their free app now or visit Anchor.fm. So when you you started singing, it came to you pretty naturally then?
I don't think I ever remember not really being able to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I fucking did. That's all I wanted to do. It's all I cared about. And you know, I mean, I didn't have really any friends, you know, so like I said, I was shy and stuff like that. Plus it was kind of an abusive household that I grew up in. And so that was my escape into that world where I'm this killer singer and everybody loves me. You know what I mean? And, and I was fully aware of, like, I was aware of when I was singing the things to do and the inflections in my voice and stuff like that. And I could tell, you know, I wasn't singing like some other little kid, you know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You know what I mean? Yeah. I could tell that I was singing this shit and you know, just honing my chops at that age. I basically was born to sing.
Man, so were your grandparents, were they supportive of music and, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything that's good about me is due to them. They, my grandfather was like, he just kind of took me under his wing and he taught me how, you know, I spent a lot of time working with him. He taught me how to like do fix things and build things and stuff like that, because I'm pretty mechanically inclined as well. But he taught me a few trades, but he knew it too. He said there was no doubt in his mind that I was going to succeed at this. He says there's just no way that I wouldn't, and so he was very supportive. He would give me a job where I half the time didn't show up and come in there rolling in around the crack of 2. Yeah, you know what I mean, but he still. You know, he always said, you know, that you're going to for sure. He goes, I don't know. He goes, that style of music you play, goes, not my thing. He says, but I can tell that whatever you do it really well.
Were you writing songs from the start, or did that come later?
No, that didn't happen until my first girlfriend. That's where songs come from, you know, emotion and pain and, you know, getting fucked around and shit. And I think I was about 15. I wrote my first song, and the song, I remember it. I'm going to retrack it, but the song was actually a really good song.
I was going to ask if you remembered it.
Yeah, I remember it. So close and far away, but it was a really great song. I'm going to retrack it, you know, just so people can hear that.
Yeah.
And my very first song, you know.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So when you tried out for guitar for that band, did you make the band?
I did, because they sucked and they had nobody else. They couldn't get anybody else. Right. So that's how I got in the band. And funny enough, it was kind of a Beatles cover band, you know, but everybody sucked that was in it. And the 2 lead singers, like, they didn't know how to harmonize or anything. One of them thought he was John, one thought he was Paul. And the one singer, he's like, you know, with his guitar, his tennis racket guitar and shit, you know, and so I got in there and I started playing, but I knew that I kicked their asses singing. I knew that, and it killed me to not be singing, but I was too insecure and just would never even open my mouth about the singing.
When did that finally go away?
When I finally started singing, because me and my buddy started drinking. Like around 13 or 14, we started drinking pretty hardcore. And then once, you know, alcohol loosens you up, and then we'd start singing along to, you know, rock and roll records and shit. And then he was like, goes, dude, you can really sing. And I said, and I knew that, but he's like, you should be singing in the band. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I can't I'm too scared. I can't do it. But finally, just one day, just closed my eyes and did it. And then I've been the lead singer ever since.
Man. So when did you meet Chip?
Let's see. I think I was about 17 or 18. And I used to go see his band play at like the VFW hall in the rec center and stuff, because he was in a pretty good band that was pretty well known at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, played a lot everywhere and stuff. They did a lot of recordings, and they were a pretty well known band. And I know that everybody liked them. And I couldn't get into the bars or nothing, but I'd go see him at these other couple places. And I remember he was the one that stood out to me, that he was so cool. He was great on the bass. He had the look of the world. He had great moves. And I thought the whole rest of the band sucked.
Yeah. Did he always have that same look?
He looked a lot cooler, I think, back then. That's when he was like the new kid in town. He was like, he got all the attention and stuff like that, and and his band, and kind of looked like Rod Stewart sort of with the punk thing and stuff. But I was such a fan of his bass playing and his look, his whole persona and stuff. And he would sing some of the lead vocals for their band too. And those were the only songs I thought that were any good.
The ones
he sang. Yeah. But then later on down the road, I somehow ended up playing with his old singer from that band. I ran into him and started writing a couple songs with him and a couple of these other guys. And we didn't have any bass in it yet. And I was like, well, I kept saying, hey man, can you get him? Can you get Chip to come down and play bass? And he was like, no, dude. He goes, I've done that for too long. I've been that route. I'm not getting Chip. You know what I mean? So I didn't know what he meant then.
Right.
You know what I mean? But eventually called him down, and Chip came and played the bass on a song one night, and heard my pipes, and Chip was like, dude, he goes, you got to play with me right now. And so that band actually was the original Enuff Z'Nuff. Chip and I didn't even come up with the name. Somebody came up with it, and that's what that project was being called. And we just kind of took the name and everything. And Chip and I, we branched off and found some other guys and just started hitting, cracking it and writing and recording like so many, and rehearsing every fucking day.
Right.
We really worked hard, So
I read that Alex Kane was in your band at the beginning.
Yeah, for a few minutes.
Okay.
He was another guy that because when Chip and I got out and started playing, the guitar player and the drummer for our band, the drummer was fat, and the guitar player looked like Simon Bar Sinister from Underdog. He had like a giant Nerf ball nose, and that's when the look was big then. And Chip and I were like, these guys do not have the look, and like the drummer, we'd stop at the costume store on the way to gigs and stuff and rent like a Santa Claus costume or a clown or something. Like one show, he was a lobster. He had to play.
Lobster.
He's like, we'd show up to the gig and he's like, got his leather jacket on, his hair is all spiked up. We're like, We'd hand him this whatever suit we got for that day, and so we had to make some kind of, he had to have some kind of look,
right?
And but the Alex was. He was in like a band that was sort of I don't know what to explain it, like kind of a rival band. They kind of did the same thing that we were doing, only not as good, but they were real popular. We hadn't really played any shows or anything yet. And Alex was in that band, and he had the moves of the world. I mean, that guy had greatest moves, and I wanted him immediately. And so we asked him for a couple of months, and he was back and forth saying he's checking out any other any other choices or chances he could get, that he would take those, you know, but because we didn't have any money. But yeah, when we finally got him, and that's when we got Vicky Fox at the same time. He might have been the guy that brought Fox in or something. And so they were the band for very short amount of time, but we played a few shows and stuff and started shopping the record and shit. And our manager, he didn't like Alex. He didn't think he was good enough. He didn't think Alex didn't suck his ass and shit like that, you know, because that's what he wanted. And so when we went around shopping the tapes and stuff, and basically we got a lot of interest, but nobody wanted to sign it until and then, you know, because he had Derek too. He was managing Derek in some other project, and they always were saying, we should put Derek in your band. You should get Derek here. I'm like, he's totally not the right kind of guitar player for my band, you know. And I was convinced of that. And plus the amount of drugs he did, you know, with the amount of drugs I did, I said, that's we'll never survive. And I mean, putting him with me, and plus adding that, you know, that cock rocky guitar, Eddie Van Halen type thing. And finally, so he came in and played, cut some solos on a couple of the songs. You know, Ron asked him to do that for shopping, and then they went out and they got us a deal right away once he was playing guitar on there.
So how long did it take you guys to get your deal from, I guess, the beginning to the deal?
What do you mean, from Chip and I starting?
Yeah. Well, you know, I guess from the original guys in the band.
Well, they had a local radio thing that they were very supportive of their local bands in Chicago, and they had this one station that every Thursday night they would have a countdown and play, like, people would vote for what band would be number one that week and stuff. And it was the local band. So that was something to strive for, you know what I mean? You wanted to be, you know, one of those top bands, you know, in the countdown every week. And when we finished up Catholic Girls and some other songs, we sent that in, and that went straight to number one, and it stayed there for, I don't know how long. It probably still is. But so when we played our first couple of shows, they were jam-packed, sold out, you know, for our very first shows. And those are like the first shows, basically, that I have ever really played, you know, because Enuff Z'Nuff was really my first real band, you know. And so once we started playing shows and had, I would say, probably within a year.
Wow.
You know, we had a record deal.
That is fast. And now, once you released that album, you guys took off pretty quick, didn't you?
Yeah, came out of the box running. You know, new thing. You know, this shot number one on MTV, and it was great for that time, for the image and all that stuff, right at that particular time. But you know, it ended up being the kiss of death for. When all of that style of music got shuffled out and brought in the new thing. And seeing the problem was that we got lumped in with the look and stuff like that, even though we didn't sound anything like any of those bands. We were totally different. And but we didn't know any better. And so when we got Derek and Vicky in the band, Chip and I started trying to get the look, you know, like the LA people were doing. We started just trying to keep up with the Joneses, and we weren't really into that at all. So didn't follow any gut instincts. But it worked really well had that whole era not ended immediately right then, you know, as soon as we got out, it would have done really well, because it was a good looking band, and it was very colorful, and plus we sounded different than all the other bands, and, you know, it came out strong.
This was what, 89?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of approaching the end of everything in that genre. Yeah,
we're still referred to as an 80s band, but our first record came out in November of 89.
Yeah. Well,
so 1 month.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happened out there. You know, at that time, these bands came out in the early 90s, but considered an 80s band. But,
Yeah, well, Doug Morris over at Atlantic, it just got to the point where he was just signing anything that had a following, anything that had a draw in California, you know. So all these shitty bands.
There was a lot of shitty bands.
Hold on 1 second. What's up? Okay. Oh, it's okay. I got my earbuds in. That's cool. Yeah, but so that was the issue. It was time to get rid of all that shit. You know what I mean? There was just too many of those bands, and you know, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of any of that kind of music to begin with, but there was a million of them, and I didn't think most of them were any good, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was time to. They do this. The same thing happens in the music business nowadays too. It's a machine. Once the machine started taking over, and it didn't have anything to do with people that knew what they were doing or had any musical, you know, knowledge or integrity in the business. And it's just, let's churn out more of what's selling.
Yeah.
You know, make this product selling. Let's continue to make that same thing and sell it and sell it and sell it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're still doing.
Oh yeah. You got to make that money, right?
Yeah. Well, but I mean, we stopped evolving right about after that era with, you know, STP and Nirvana and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Music stopped evolving after that. All those bands came in like Tool and stuff like that all sound pretty much kind of the same. You know what I mean? And then that was it. That never, now rock and hard rock has never changed since those days of, you know, like Tool and, you know, I don't know the names of those bands, but bands like that, you know, that have all of that similar sound. That's still what hard rock music is these days. And then the pop music went from, I considered us pop, and back then, but then pop went to like this cross between country and whatever, you know.
Right.
They used to call it CHR, contemporary hit radio, and that changed into something else. But now that's all you see out there, or all you hear out there is these new artists and kids that, you know, they don't write their songs. They don't usually play any instruments. They just get the same guys that are writing everybody's songs and producing them all. And, you know, there's great artists. I'm not saying there's not, but
sure,
there's just so many that, you know, that, I mean, it's not like in the old days, you know, when you had a DJ and record labels that, you know, that had A&R guys, you know, that went around scouring and hitting the clubs and everything to find different and unique and cool stuff. And then DJs would play, they get to play what they wanted then. And they'd come across something that they thought was great, and they'd play it on the radio. And that's how things would become, bands would become big and stuff. And
yeah,
but then your next era, your next generation of musicians would be influenced by that stuff and take it to the next level with their, you know, as their generation, they come into their own. They start writing and evolve that music, you know what I mean? And it would keep evolving and evolving until it just hit a certain point where now there's nothing, you know, completely unique and original or anything anymore, you know?
Yeah.
There won't be any more Rolling Stones or Beatles or Led Zeppelins or anything like that. Because it's impossible for that to happen.
There won't be any more rock stars.
No, I mean, Bruno Mars.
Yeah, right. I think that your last rock star is probably Dave Grohl.
Yeah, he's a rock star. Yeah. He's a rock star, but I mean, he even doesn't have the flair and everything like Tyler or Jagger or Plant. That whole fucking thing. Yeah. He's just really great at what he does. You know, he's still a grunger. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, through all that time, like when everything in the genre that you guys were lumped into started to fade out, you guys kept making albums, correct?
Yeah. Well, what else are we going to do? You know, we wrote great songs and we just didn't believe that it was over for us. You know, we didn't believe that. We always believed that something's going to happen because we're too good for just, you know, nothing ever happened. So we kept making these records and on indie labels and stuff like that, we always could get some kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
To some capacity. So it was enough to make a record and get that out there somewhat. And so we could get out and support it live. And so we'd be working like, one-legged man in an ass kicking contest, working constantly out there in every little arm, little fucking shithole in the world. And just, continuing to believe. We just had, it's just like, there's no way, we're too good.
Right.
Like I felt that same way. So since I was a little kid, I've been kicking fucking ass. It's like, I'm a great writer, a great singer. I said, I can't give up,
Yeah.
Something down the line is going to happen, and just keep believing and just keep going. And I'm still doing that today.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it the whole time?
Well, my passion has always been the art, the creative about that. Being a rock star, never. All right, see you, buddy. Being a rock star, I suffer really bad anxiety,
mm-hmm.
and bipolar and all this shit. And I'm having really bad anxiety today. That's why I can't really think. My thoughts are all racing and all over the place. But like being around people and things like that. Like I said, I was a scared and shy kid, and anxiety is really, really bad. And so, I went from total obscurity with basically no friends to center stage at the microphone, you know what I mean? And, in front of everybody. And it just, it was really hard for me to deal with that, but, and still to this day it is, I'm playing out live is not my favorite thing to do, and plus it's toxic because I have that, addictive nature and all that stuff. And a lot of the medicating I did was just to be able to deal with that lifestyle.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
You had to get fucked up to be able to deal with it,
So when you guys were on the road, you and Derek, you were mentioning before that it was going to be a bad combination. Did it end up being that way?
It certainly was. There was no doubt that's what was going to happen. It's bad enough if you get one guy like that in your band.
Yeah.
But to have two guys that are like, first of all, he's like a virtuoso. He's like a star in his own right. I mean, even if he wouldn't have been Enuff Z'Nuff, he'd have been a star of something else, and then you got, and me as well. So you got two guys with that kind of attitude. And then with because we both had really troubled childhoods. So, that's just what happens. You're filling some hole all the time and shit. And so we were both very excessive people as well, so there was no chance, chance for us,
When he passed away, did that make you rethink things, or did you just keep on going?
No, it didn't make, I was already starting to curb down, I'd stopped drinking, and I just stopped doing coke and started doing speed and shit like that. And, he kept doing the coke and into heroin and shit. And I had a brief run with heroin, but it was like mostly painkillers and shit like that, and, heroin you can't be lazy with that drug, man. You gotta be out there every single fucking day. But he was, still, he really loved to get high. It was his favorite thing to do, more than playing guitar, more than anything. Really? He loved to get high, party, and fuck chicks and stuff. He liked playing guitar because that was his tool to be able to do this. Yeah, right. And now for a while, I started feeling that way too, where it's like, it's time to go on, guys. Showtime in 10 minutes. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. I'm fucking, I just want to party.
Right.
And, your priorities get all out of whack and stuff. But it's like that stuff, once you get rolling on that shit, that's when you can't quit, And, and when you're out on the road, as long as we were, and it's like, it's just a big party for us everywhere we went. You know what I mean? It's like, there's drugs, everybody's got everything and this and that. And so we didn't stand a chance, nobody. He was in and out of rehabs a lot for like I hadn't seen him in like 10 years after I fired him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was out in LA, and from what I understand, he was in and out of a lot of rehabs, playing in different things, this and that, and still doing his exact same thing, you know, using his guitar playing to get coke and chicks and stuff like that. And when I had seen him again for the first time, he was actually sober. He was clean and sober that time. And because I was working on getting clean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I got married and shit. And so he was sober, and he looked great. He was a whole different guy. He wasn't a jagoff, you know, he wasn't, he was kind of, you know, just, he had his composure about him, and started actually focusing on what he did.
Yeah.
He was such a good guitar player, but he didn't work at it. He didn't work at it at all. He just took that for granted. And so once he started actually working on that and concentrating on playing and bettering his skills and stuff and writing and stuff like that, that's when he started getting really, really great. And that's when I hooked up with him, and he and Vicky Fox and myself, we ended up getting together and playing like this little bar. We just played like a get together, you know, one night only. The three of us got together and went into this club and played like a whole set, like our old set from the very first record and shit. Because Vic, he hadn't been in the band for even longer than Derek.
Right.
You know, Vic, it was out even way faster. And yeah, we played that one set, and it was great. Derek didn't miss a beat. He was fucking amazing. Vic was, you know, did his thing. He's always great. And that's all it took was that one night of playing out in that club that night with some attention, and the talk was out there, and there was a buzz. And all of a sudden, I seen him a couple of days later, and he was going to come over, and we were going to work on a song. And he came over, and I could see it already. He had started up again. Oh,
shit.
Yeah, so I was, and my wife was like, no way, he's not coming over here, you know. And you could tell he's all bug-eyed and this and that. And she found a syringe in the bathroom the next morning after he left. And so that day, he kept trying to call me. And that's the days of answering machines and stuff. He kept trying to call me all day. Dude, pick up, man. Dude, pick up. It's Derek, dude. Blah, blah, blah. You know, making up this story, that story. But I wouldn't answer it.
Yeah.
Because I knew what was going down. I didn't want to get, first of all, I'd have been divorced immediately. And I also didn't want to, you know, I could just see looking at him that ugly feeling again.
Yeah.
And so I didn't answer. And that afternoon, this dude called me and said, is it true that Derek's dead? I'm like, no, I just seen him last night. He's been trying to call me all day.
Oh, shit.
Dude, I heard he's dead. And it turned out he was dead. That's another one of those weird experiences, like with my uncle with the guitar and stuff. You know, just having not seen that guitar, having not seen my uncle, none of that shit for all those years. And then right then, you know, just right when I see Derek again, and we played for the first time in a million years,
yeah,
then that happens immediately. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Mm. Yeah, it is. But I'm glad that I did get to see him again.
Yeah.
And just he buried the hatchet. You know, he picked me up in his car. He was actually driving a car. Now that was very unusual for Derek to do anything like normal people would do.
Yeah.
You know, like drive a car, have a license, go pump your own gas, stuff like that. And
right.
He picked me up in his car. I was like, holy shit, dude, you're like a person. And he pulled over to the side of the road, and he goes, listen, dude, I got to talk to you. He goes, I fucking totally took it for granted. He goes, I didn't respect how hard and how well you do your job, and how hard a work that was to write all those songs and sing all that stuff. He goes, I just jacked off and just played guitar, and basically, which was what he did. But when he said that shit to me, and he apologized for that, and that was it. I said, dude, we're good, no problem.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Were you the main writer in the band? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you brought the songs to the band.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, Chip says that we wrote the songs all together and stuff, and a lot of them will say his name, but that's not really true. You know, I would say I wrote 90% of everything.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, everything I've heard, even up to your new stuff on Beautiful Things, I mean, your writing is just, it's awesome. I mean, the melodies and everything.
I think I'm still getting better.
I think that album is probably one of the better ones I've heard of your material.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think it's the best. That's the first time I ever got a chance to paint my vision how what I wanted to do exactly. You know,
Yeah.
I did a couple other solo records, but I still there was different reasons for this or that and stuff, and still dragging some of the old sound and stuff. And this was the first time that I ever really got to do it exactly what I wanted, and have somebody to work with me, producer Mike Tholen, to help me capture that vision. And it turned out to be a beautiful thing.
Right.
It was fucking great. And you know, I mean, I've probably put out solo and with band and stuff like that, you know, maybe 25 records.
Yeah, you put out a shitload.
Yeah, so at this point, still at 56 years old, you know, 25 records, and to be still putting out your best stuff, you know, I mean, there's not a lot of guys you can say that about.
Yeah, not at all.
You know?
And your voice still sounds great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's thank God, you know, so he's there for me when I go to use it, and it's not like I take care of it or anything, you know, and got lucky. And
does it still come natural, or do you find yourself really having to work at it when you're in the studio?
No, I just, once I open up a little bit, you know, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'll get stuff on the first pass through, but you always sound better once you open up, and your voice, your throat opens up, and your vocal cords start getting lubricated and stuff. And I'll sing through a couple things and then come back, take a 5-minute break and come back, and I can sing better now than I ever have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I said, everything sounds awesome from what I'm hearing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, man. When you left Enuff Z'Nuff, what did you leave for? What was the reason?
Basically, it's easier to say that there wasn't any reason to stay. You know, I mean, there was just nothing, and we had complete different visions. I wanted to keep making new records. I wanted to actually rehearse. I wanted to make the band, you know, be all of that it could be, which we still hadn't gotten. Still had never done that. You know, it's just the band we were always so good that it didn't take any work to do what we did. You know what I mean? And God forbid we should actually put our noses to the grindstone and do something besides grind off our nose. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so plus, you know, the drugs and all that shit hit me hard again. And I was, you know, having a real bad time with that. Chip and I weren't, you know, it's like, it was desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate actions. And people are, you know, when you're acting in desperation and stuff, those aren't, you know, you're not being your best self or making decisions that are based on anything except just trying to survive, you know. And Chip and me stopped getting along, you know, a long time before that because of the drugs and everything. We just were completely two different worlds, you know. And all I cared about was being an artist. I didn't care. All he likes to do, he wants to be out on the road and playing every single night, if he could, every night. That's all he wants to do. He doesn't care what the show is. He doesn't care if anybody's there. He doesn't care if they like him. He just wants to be out doing that. And I fucking, you know, it's not that I hate it, but that lifestyle is, you know, it's hard on me, and especially with how much work that takes in my job, you know, to do. Sure. And the money, there's shitty money, you know, you're making anything. You're just out there basically killing yourself. And, you know, and I was in pretty bad shape at that point, and we couldn't relate, and we just couldn't even, you know, even talk or anything anymore. And then, you know, we were constantly fighting in the band because those guys didn't want to make, you know, weren't going to make a new record, and I wanted to make records.
Right.
I made that Wrapped Around My Middle Finger record, right, you know, on my own. That was after Dissonance. That would have been the next record So nobody would come in and make a record. So I started making them myself. And then as far as playing out and still playing Enuff Z'Nuff shows, I wanted to do some of my new songs, you know, because the fans want to hear those. You know, who wants to hear Baby Loves You, a new thing again for the zillionth time, you know?
Yeah.
The fans seen the same exact show for 25 years. And so that started to cause a wedge too, you know, like jealousy and egos and shit like that. And then it just reached a point where there was no way I could even stay. He couldn't stand me. I couldn't stand him. And that was the end of it.
Right. So you released an album. It was Goodbye Enuff Z'Nuff. Is that what it was called?
I think so. You know, those days I've released so much different shit that I don't even remember everything that I put out. I don't know everything that I've released, and I keep hearing about that one, and I can vision
you might want to go back and check it out.
Yeah, I can envision the cover, the gravestone stuff like that, but I don't remember what's on that.
That's funny.
I don't know what's on that record. What is it? Just what is it?
Well, from what I understand, it's a live album and a DVD.
Huh.
You have to check it out.
You had a pretty bad attitude. I wasn't at that point when I left Enuff Z'Nuff. I didn't plan to even. Not only did I not want to be alive anymore, I didn't want to do this anymore. I was like, it's just so pointless. I'm so discouraged. Nothing. It wouldn't matter how great of something I made or how well I did my job. Just nothing would happen. You couldn't get a break. And so I just got very disillusioned with everything. And there's a record I made called The White Album. It started with one song that was going to be my farewell to the music business. A song called, what was it called? Unforsaken. And that turned into a fucking double record.
Oh, jeez. Excuse me. So when you went on a solo career, I mean, is that what you always wanted to do at some point?
I've basically felt in some ways that I was in a solo career most of my career. You know what I mean? It's because as far as what I did, and these were my songs. I was singing them, I was writing them, I was playing almost everything on them. And I'm just getting cock blocked. Creativity, creatively cock blocked, and I couldn't, do things exactly how I wanted to because you're dealing with other people's egos and their issues, and Chip started kind of pulling fast ones and sneaking some of his songs on records and things that I hadn't even heard or anything. It's like, that's ridiculous shit,
right,
but
right.
I just was real disillusioned. But yeah, I've been, since I wrote my first song at like 15, I've been kicking them out nonstop, just constantly new and better songs, So solo career, I really felt once Derek was gone, it was kind of like them against me then for the rest of the time that I'd be in the band. No matter who was in the band, it would be them against me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd feel that way. So it's kind of like it was a big solo band with other guys that were constantly there.
Sure. I see. With Beautiful Things, were you going to have big plans for like this year, and then shit hit the fan, or because that came out in what, early to mid 2019?
Yeah, well, I was just putting my band together, and we were just rehearsing, and shows were starting to be booked and everything. And the first show that I played, my first rock and roll show in 6 years, I played there. You couldn't even get in. There was, lines around the block and stuff. So I was like, I think I could maybe make some money doing this again. Get out there and play. So we were rehearsing, and at that point, I got all those records worth of material trying to figure out how to put a set together out of all that shit. And, but I wanted to really focus and feature the new record, the new stuff, because I'm sick to death of all that old shit. You know what I mean? And
sure.
But I know that the fans want to hear that stuff. They want to hear some of those, but, so putting together a show, I was figuring, we were putting together about a 3.5 hour show. So that was what I was going to do. No opening act, nothing like that.
It's a long time.
Do a whole evening thing. And then that happened, and all the shows that I had booked already, and we just signed up with a booking agency and everything, and it all got canceled.
So what are the plans? Are you going to try and get out there next year if things open up a little bit, or?
Yeah, well, as soon as I'll do whatever I have to do. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, just writing and making records, and that's my passion. That's all I've ever wanted to do. It's performing them. Then you got all the athletics of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, getting in shape and all of the rigor and the stress and the, you know, just what it takes out of you and all that work you got to put into rehearsing and all that shit. All of that stuff, and plus the it's a toxic world out there, you know, and so it's not something that but I do like to see the fans. That's the one thing, is I love my fans, and they love me, and I love to see them. So that's the reason that I want to play some shows is to see my fans.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and to hang and sing together, you know, spend a night hanging out with them, and you know, of course, and try to make some money, because you know, people don't buy records anymore. That's the only way you can make money is playing live. And everybody's down now, and so that's why so many bands are going under, and all the rock clubs and shit are closing, and
yeah,
it's so we'll see what happens. But when things are happening again, people are out there doing that. Yeah, I imagine I'll be out there too.
You ever think about doing any of these online live shows?
Yeah, I've been talking about doing one for a while now, and I just haven't gotten my shit together to do one, because I don't want to just do take an acoustic guitar and sit there like everybody else is doing. I want to record backing tracks, have all this stuff, and then play or sing to tracks, you know, have drums and bass and all that stuff. So there's a lot of work putting together a show like that. Yeah. But once I did, I would have that to work with, and I could play more of them. And but I'm just I don't know, I'm just so fucking lazy. That's really what all it is, man. Just lazy, and I'm happy now, and I'm comfortable in my life and the situation that I'm in and everything. I'm not like scratching and clawing and desperate and like I've been my whole life, you know, wishing that I was dead and stuff. Yeah. I mean, my whole life up until a few years ago, and now I love my life. That's and awesome. So I think that's what's happening is I'm not gravitating back to I got a great studio, better than one I've ever had, you know, great gear and things like that. And I know how to do all this stuff, but it's sitting down there, and I got about 7 or 8 really great new tunes that need to be tracked. You know what I mean? And I keep saying, I got to track these tunes, and then I'll write another one. I'm like, oh man, they keep piling up on me. And well,
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
well, when I start doing that stuff, I don't come up for air for a long time. I get into a zone, and then that's all I'll be doing for, you know, a couple of months at a time or something, just nonstop. Be up for days sitting there doing that, and I work my balls off when I'm doing that. But it's like I think I'm kind of apprehensive about that, because I know that's what'll be involved. That's what it'll entail. And that's a lot of fucking work. And so you get apprehensive about taking that first step into that, you know, that situation again.
It's so fun though, recording though, isn't it?
Once I start rolling. Yeah. It's like,
I love it. I love recording.
See, I'm doing everything myself. So there's a lot of tedious things like, programming the drums and, you know, and working out parts and stuff like that. I love recording. Once I get started, and once I got the drum tracks finished, you know, because that's what I start with. I don't need a guide track or anything, because I hear it all in my head already. So I'm just sitting there with drums, writing the drum tracks and playing, like not playing them like a kid, but playing this stuff with my fingers, you know, on the keyboards and samples and stuff. And, you know, because I'm playing, I don't just use loops or a beat or something like that. I play the drums to that song, you know what I mean? And the right thing. And so once that's done, then the fun shit starts, you know, and And then once you get to the point of doing the background harmonies, that's my favorite part.
The harmonies?
Background harmonies. I love doing them.
Yeah.
Building those harmonies out of nowhere, you know.
What do you use to record? What do you record with?
Logic.
Okay.
I basically was just doing GarageBand for everything because it's so simple, you know, and I don't have any engineering skills whatsoever, you know, and I couldn't mix peanut butter and jelly, but GarageBand, Logic is, somebody turned me on to that. That's basically GarageBand on steroids. So if you know how to run GarageBand, you know how to run Logic, but Logic also has all the shit that you need to be able to make a record and stuff, as where GarageBand doesn't. And so, you know, I'm learning at that stuff too, and it's a lot more intricate though. There's a lot more entailed, and so, you know, it's just a whole lot more work with recording these days, the way that I do it, than it used to be with like a 4-track or an 8-track machine and just a couple of guys banging out songs. You know,
you prefer it that way, the old way?
No, well, in the old days, you used to try to record what you played, you know, and now you're trying to play what you recorded, you know, which is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's totally different. And no, I mean, each one, there's like a energy and stuff like that when you're recording together as a band or something like that. And it's definitely quicker. And, you know, you don't have to program this and program that. Somebody's already playing that and shit. And, you know, but I have to play everything from the drums all the way up and build these songs. And they, you know, they take time, and I'll nitpick at the tiniest details, you know, of I want the shit to be exactly perfect, you know, and I'll just keep going and listen to it and go and hit it some more. And no, I mean, I love being able to do it the way it is now, you know, with unlimited tracks, unlimited, you know, everything you need, you have, you know, to do it. And then just send it off to be mixed. You know, it's really great. It's like probably the greatest feeling in the world to finish another great song and to be able to sit there and rock it out in your AirPods. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You send your stuff out to be mixed, or do you do it yourself?
Well, like I said, I can't mix shit. I don't understand any of that stuff. You know, I mean, all of my mixing skills are completely unconventional, and people think I'm nuts the way I'm doing things. But all I care about is if you can listen to it when you're done. You know what I mean? That's all I care about. But my hearing is gone, it's shot and everything. So I got everything tweaked, total high end stuff, and everything is. I lose my mix floor in probably the first hour.
Oh, geez. After
you get the drums out, and then my mix floor is shot because I'm trying to put things louder than the drums, you know, and my drums are already hitting in a red. So I lose my mix floor, and so I end up, what I do is I'll clone tracks. You know, if I can't hear something loud enough, or I can't get it up loud enough, and you know, turn the compressor gain up, you know, to get every drop of volume you can out of anything. And then what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste that track on another track and another track. Keep copying and pasting them until all of a sudden it's loud enough.
And then all of a sudden you got a big pile of shit, right?
Yeah, well, it's all the exact same track.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just enough of them that now you can hear it. You know, it's crazy. 15 vocal tracks of the same vocal, and then background harmonies, the same thing.
Yeah.
So I tried to send one of those off to have mixed, and they look at me like I'm nuts. There's 100 and something tracks.
They send it back.
And most of them are the exact same thing as the 10 tracks before it, you know?
That's funny. All right, Donnie. Well, listen, it was great to talk to you. Glad we got to catch up. It's been 30 years.
Man, it has been a long time. Like I said, my anxiety is really bad. I'm kind of scatterbrained today. And this interview, I don't think you have so much editing to do if you're actually playing this instead of typing it up. And so if you want to, you have to see what you got there in a couple of days. If you want to hit this again, we can try that again when I'm a little
you know
more
what?
relaxed.
I thought it was great, man. I mean, and I don't edit shit, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm all over the place, you know. It's
no, it was okay. Well, it was great, but I will take you up on having you on again.
Dude, you got my number. You can call anytime you want.
Yeah, man. I will. I will. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to edit this at all.
Oh my goodness. What is it? Was it coming on your podcast or something?
Well, it'll come out. Well, I don't know about tomorrow. It's Thanksgiving tomorrow, but Friday probably.
Where does it come out at? What do you got rolling there?
It's going to be out everywhere that you listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, whatever.
You got big following and shit.
Yeah, you know, this is only the 36th episode, but everything's going really well right now. I mean, you can check us out online too at rnrcoffeeshow.com.
Oh, that's great. I will. I'll check that out.
Yeah,
and like I said, if you ever need somebody to fill in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something just for some shit talk or this and that, you give me a buzz. Just shoot me a text and let me know you're going to be calling. And
yeah, man.
And you call me anytime you want, brother.
Well, I appreciate that, Donnie. It was great to talk to you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, the anxiety and stuff. I'm spinning.
It was great. It was great. Great podcast, I'd say.
Well, thank you. I felt very comfortable.
Good.
I like your questions are cool.
Good. I don't prepare for these. I just go with it. Kind of like if we met at a bus stop or something. You know what I mean? Right.
Well, yeah. When
so
you got
makes it
people,
makes it a little dangerous. Makes it a little fun.
People love me as a guest because number one, you can ask only 5 questions and you'll still get a 2-hour interview.
Right.
You know what I mean? And also that I'm completely uncensored, uninhibited. You know, there's nothing that I won't talk about. There's nothing that I don't lie. I'm not ashamed of even the shameful things I've done. I'm not ashamed.
Sure.
And it's just tell that, if you're doing an interview, people want to hear actually what the actual real deal is. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
When you got nothing to lose, nobody can do shit to me. I could say anything I want.
Yeah.
And the fans appreciate that about me. Is what you see is what you get, and like Chip, I love Chip and everything. And, but him doing an interview, you might as well have just taken and copied and pasted the last interview. I mean, it's the same exact fucking stereotype answers. You know what I mean?
Do you still talk to Chip or no?
Yeah. But we weren't for quite a while there. It was pretty much hatred. And, he's pulled some really shady fucking unethical shit on me, especially in the last few years and stuff that I won't get into. But we just got a record deal that licensed the whole Enuff Z'Nuff catalog. So I liked that because it got rounded all those records up from all this fucked up places that they were, and nobody's paying us. And so now they're all under one roof and they're all being re-released and respected and appreciated and presented the way that most of them never had a chance to. And so that deal with Cleopatra kind of brought Chip and I back together again, of at least talking and stuff. And then before you know it, I got a song on his last record, and he's playing on my new single that's coming out probably in a month or two, and he's even in the video.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Enuff Z'Nuff?
I think Enuff Z'Nuff. My attitude with that is if there's ever an actual real good reason to do something of that nature again, then I would.
Yeah.
But as long as it's, there's no, he's out there playing as Enuff Z'Nuff, and he's singing stuff.
Yeah,
he's playing to 50 people, for under $1,000 a night and stuff. There's no reason to be doing that, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, or he gets on these big cock rock conglomeration shows, where there'll be like a bunch of blasts from the 80s thing or something like that, and he's opening for these cock rock bands and stuff, and he looks at that as he thinks that, we're playing packed places. They're not there to see you, Chip. They're there to see the headline band, and they're seeing you because you happen to be on the bill, and plus the fans and anybody who comes out to see that show, it's like diet Enuff Z'Nuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
there's no sugar. It's in the same package, but there's, you know what I mean? Everything about it is missing, which is me.
Really one member, right? Left?
Yeah. Yeah. The guy that,
Yeah.
but it's missing the guy that wrote and sang all the songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who wants to see that?
Yeah. No, I agree.
But like I said, if there was, you know, I had no objections to if occasionally maybe recording a couple singles or something, like the box sets getting ready to come out. And I think it'd be a good idea if we had a new song, a new single where it's actually written by us both and the old formula, and put that with, you know, and every now and then release a new single as Enuff Z'Nuff, where when you release something as Enuff Z'Nuff, where it still sounds like Enuff Z'Nuff. It's not a bunch of shitty songs sung by a guy, a shitty singer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it sounds, you know, holds up to the integrity of everything that we've done. And, you know, so for the fans at least, and then if you play a few big shows, you know, here and there, you know, go do a couple of nights in London, you know, maybe a couple in Japan, you know, do a big Chicago show, a big New York show, you know, just a few shows, but make events, you know, something big, well publicized where the people will be at, you know, and I would do things like that.
Well, maybe you guys will have to talk about it some more.
Well, it's until things change, which I don't see if things being able to actually come back to how they used to be to the, you know, fully to the full extent. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And people think, oh, I can't wait till this year is over. We get into 2021 and everything's going to start. I think we ain't seen nothing yet. I think it's just going to get, you know, 2021 might even be worse than 20.
Yeah, it might be.
You know, yeah.
I guess we'll see, right?
Well, I'm very curious to see what this fucked up music business, what twists they put on it now to see how people are still able to do this for a living, you know. And I know a lot of shit will be done online and virtual stuff, but like what I do and what I want to do and what I love to do, I'm still doing, writing and recording new songs, you know. Right.
Okay.
I'm good without touring.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said earlier, I definitely prefer studio over touring and playing.
So you still making records?
You know what? I do kind of like you. I make music at home. I do it myself with my co-host. He couldn't be with us because he's working tonight, Nick. But we share files back and forth and, you know, write some songs and put them out there and just have fun with it, basically.
Well, you know, they hit me up if you needed some background harmonies on something or whatever, you know, if you need something, I'm there for you, man.
Yeah, all right. Definitely.
I don't charge too much.
Yeah, I'll shoot you over a couple and you can check them out.
All right, man. That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, Donnie, but yeah, let's definitely do this again. And you know, you take care out there. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll
you
be
too,
in contact.
Man. Tell Nick he's Nick the Dick to me because he wasn't there.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. He didn't.
Good night, Nick the Dick.
You know, and he told me earlier. He's like, I said, "You still working? You gonna make it?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make it." And then he texted me right before we came on. He's like, "Man, I'm still working." So.
Well, you could have rescheduled it.
He could have just left work. I don't understand.
Or you could have just said, Donnie, can you do it at this time or that time or this day? I would have done that.
Yeah.
No problem.
No, I think it worked out good. And he'll be on the next one. I'll make sure of that.
All righty. All right. Well, send me some stuff. I hear it. And like I said, you know, you need a harmony or something on this. I'll have no problem doing that.
Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, buddy.
All right, man. You have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving and stay safe.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
All right. Bye.